Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 52 Love Podcast. I'm your host, Tonya Todd. 52 Love began as a blog series where we did 52 love lessons in 52 weeks. And the 52 Love Podcast explores each of those tips with a new guest each week. This week's tip is playing a sexy game with your partner. And to talk about it, I have guest Chanel Hardy. Chanel, will you introduce yourself and tell our viewers and listeners what it is you do in the creative world?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chanel Hardy. I am an author, a literary blogger, and a freelance writer. I also run a magazine called Coffee, Wine, and Words.
How did you get started in the magazine business?
Well, this is actually a funny story. So I've been freelancing for a while. You know, sometimes people contact me to write articles for them, or I ghostwrite articles. So I was submitting for a local, I think it's an online magazine. You've probably heard of them. I think it was the Las Vegas Sun, one of those. Mm-hmm. And I guess my piece that I submitted was a little too not conservative enough, because they seem to be a conservative platform. So it was rejected. And I said, you know, I really want to have more opportunities where I can submit things that I want people to read. And I'm like, why am I sitting here waiting on other people to accept what I have to say when I could just create my own platform where I can say what I have to say and allow other people to do the same?
That's really cool. What kind of books do you write?
I write, so under Chanel Hardy, I write young adult fiction, but I also have another pen name, December Davenport, where I write steamy adult romance. So nice. If you ever see December Davenport floating around the internet, yes, that is me. And that actually works with the podcast that we're doing right now.
Yeah, it does. How did you come up with that name? That's really December Davenport.
So my birthday is in December. So, and I love when
Mine too.
I love when people have months as names. So I said, I want to do something like that. And I wanted it to be something that rolls off the tongue. So I went in one of a Facebook writer group that I'm in, and I did a poll. I had Davenport and a couple of other last names that begin with the letter D, and I had my friends basically pick which one they thought sounded the best, and Davenport is what they picked. So that's how I came up with December Davenport.
I love that name. I'm a fan of Jack Davenport, and then you have the January Jones thing going on, you know?
Yeah, I love her name. Oh my goodness.
Alliteration for the win, says Tonya Todd. So this week's tip was to play a sexy game with your partner. Tell me about your experience with that.
So I wanted to pick something fun yet simple. I didn't want to do anything that'd be too exhausting. So I came up with a game, and basically what we did was we picked a TV show. Well, you can either do a TV show or a movie. We picked a TV show. So what the game is that he picked 3 words and I picked 3 words. And you're probably familiar with the drinking game where whenever a character says a word, you take a drink. Well, that's what we did, except we took a tally. So his words were why, who, and what. Very simple. And my words were love, hello, and no. So basically, whenever a character would say any of those words, we would kiss And we would also take a tally. So at the end of the episode, whoever had the most points, that's how many kisses the other person gets, and on whatever part of the body you want. So another fun thing about this game was that my husband's a huge fan of anime, and he's been trying to get me to watch it for a while. So I said, okay, how about this? We can pick something that the other person loves to watch that the other person doesn't. So I felt like this was a nice way to bond with your partner, not just on a sexual level, but also on a fun level, because he introduced
Right.
me to a show that, I never would have watched otherwise. It's an anime called Citrus. So, it was a nice bonding exercise, and it was fun. It was kind of, we were kind of too focused on the words and like, oh, there it is, it's mine. So at the end of the game, he had 19 points and I had 13. So it was pretty close. So, I basically said, okay, I'll give you 19 kisses wherever you want. And yeah, that's basically what we did.
Do you think you'll play this game again?
Oh, of course. It was pretty fun. We'll probably do something like a movie next time, though.
Oh, that could really add up for a whole movie.
Yeah.
So are you competitive by nature when you play games?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Oh my goodness. This is actually part of the reason why we hardly play games, because I get way too competitive. Like, even when I was a kid, I would get really upset when I was losing. I'm not, it's not that bad anymore, but it's just like, I don't know what it is with games, but I naturally get competitive. But in a game like this, I didn't think I was competitive at all. It was just fun because it was like, we both win, so it didn't
Right.
really
Even if you
matter.
lose, you win.
Right.
And, the rematch is just as fun.
Of course, yep.
What kind of games did you play as a kid?
I was really into board games when I was a kid. Like, Sorry is one of my favorites. We actually still play that now. I have Sorry in my cupboard, and Trouble and Candyland. So I'm really big on games where you win by chance, that require a little bit of strategy, but not too much. Games that require too much strategy, they overwhelm me, and I'm just like, nope, I want to do something else. So, like, games like Monopoly, oh no, no, thank you. But I like games where it's like half strategy and half, good luck.
Right. Well, the thing is, with this, the good luck is no matter whether you win or lose, you're getting
Yep,
kisses, right? You're getting or
yep,
giving kisses, and you're bonding and you're enjoying yourselves together. Though it would
yep.
be interesting to administer the sexy aspect to some of these children's games.
Right. I was trying to think of something I could do with like Sorry, but I'm like, nah, I want to do something different. And the good thing about this kissing game is that it can be as erotic as you like or as simple as you like. So, there are some couples who maybe they don't like getting too graphic when they're intimate, and that's fine. So, it's something that you can do when you just meet someone, and it's something that you can do with someone that you've been with for a very long time.
Agreed. Nice and simple, and it can be sweet
Hmm.
either way. So, do you
Yep.
think this game will find its way into any of your fiction?
My YA, maybe. It's kind of tame, so I think it'd be a cool thing to interpret into that. But my adult stuff, I probably go more the route of like Strip Twister or something like that.
Yeah. Have you ever played Strip Twister?
No. Oh my goodness. I can barely play regular Twister. So, yeah.
Well, it's still fun.
Yeah.
Well, what was Matt's, takeaway on this?
He liked it. Yeah, he just thought it was funny, honestly. He didn't take it like too seriously. He was just like, okay, yeah, sure. So, with him, it was just kind of like a joke, but he still had a good time. Anything that he can turn into humor. And that's definitely something he turned into humor.
Well, that's his strength, right?
Uh-huh, yep.
He makes you laugh and you give him kisses.
Yep. Uh-huh, every time.
So tell us what you have going on right now. I know that you are working on putting out a magazine. Tell us a little bit about
Yes.
that and what fiction you're working on right now.
So Coffee, Wine, and Words is on its second issue, its spring issue. The first issue was in August of 2020. So this issue was coming out in March. Um, this issue is the last one. I focused on nonprofits and things like that. And I interviewed girls who grew up in the foster system. So that was the focus with the first one. With this one, it's more relaxed. We talk a lot about poetry in this one. So this one's more poetry focused. And other than that, it's just writers having fun. It's nothing, like I'm no Miranda Priestley or anything. We're just having a good time. And I have two main writers, Tiffany Richardson and Jennifer Harris. And I have them basically just write something that they're passionate about. So I give them prompts and I just have them go from that. So, yeah, it's basically just anything dealing with the literary world, whether it's poetry, upcoming releases, and it's indie focused because I'm an indie writer and an indie publisher. So my focus is other indie writers, which is also an advantage because I feel like all we have is each other. So, we have to give each other a platform to express ourselves. So, if you're an indie writer and you want to promote your book, just holler at me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is your submission process? How do people contact you if they want to be part of your magazine?
Um, what I do is I typically seek people out because it can get kind of overwhelming micromanaging people. So what I do is I put out a call for like poetry submissions. But other than that, I basically seek out people that I've seen write before and that I've read things from. So I'm like, okay, I like her tweets and I like her blog. So I'm going to see if she wants to write for me. And sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. Um, so yeah, and as far as people who have upcoming releases, I use my Facebook groups for that. So I'll go into my Facebook groups and I'll say, hey, if you've got a book coming out between now and April, put it in the comments with a cover and a description. And then I'll just pick from those and I'll let them know, hey, this is going in my magazine. So are you all right with that? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. So
Yeah, that's very supportive of you.
yeah, I basically just try to find the simple way to do things because, yeah, it can get kind of overwhelming. So I'm just like, let me just take my time and, just try not to get too serious with everything. Because at the end of the day, this is all, it's just for fun. It's for the love
Right.
of books and writing.
I imagine there are a few challenges that go along with putting out a magazine, though, especially since you did it your first time last year. What were some of
Yeah.
those challenges, and how did you overcome them?
One of the biggest challenges was deadlines. So I had a deadline, and at first, when I was seeking out writers, I basically let them know, like, hey, if you want to write for me, let me know by this time. And the ones that said yes, I said, okay, so you have a deadline of like July 14th. And there were people who agreed to write for me, but they wouldn't follow up. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, you try to maintain a certain level of professionalism, but it gets hard because, people will flake on you.
So
So,
not so much your deadlines, but getting people to be responsible for their own deadlines.
yes, definitely. And that's one of the reasons why for this issue, I've um, cut down on the amount of people that I have writing for me because the less people you have to keep track of, the better.
Makes sense. Fewer opportunities for people to
Mm-hmm.
to flake on you or cause
Yeah.
accountability issues. Well, lesson learned, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. The first time was also a trial run, and now I know what works and what doesn't work.
Very good. And then how do people find this magazine? How can they purchase it and read from it?
It's available on MagCloud, and it's available in print and digital.
Will you spell that for people who are just listening?
MagCloud, that's MagCloud, and you can find the link on my website, which is chardypublications.com. So if you go to my website and you go to the Coffee, Wine, and Words magazine page, there's a link there.
And then tell us about your books. Which books are available to buy and where can people buy them?
My books are available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I do have one book available on Scribd. So if you have a Scribd membership, you can read my first book, which is My Colorblind Rainbow there. And my most recent release is a book called P.S. I Hope This Finds You. It's a novella of love letters, and it's also a historical fiction. So it takes place in the 60s, and it focuses on love letters between two people. And it's a cute little story. It's about a girl named Clementine who puts a message in a bottle on her 16th birthday, and she sends it out into the ocean. And a year later, a boy in Florida finds it. So they start a friendship, which eventually leads into a more serious relationship, exchanging letters.
That's a really cool idea. I mean, you read these stories about handwritten letters, but
Hmm.
you put a twist on it by putting these messages in a bottle, and that's really cool. Although some people
Yeah,
might be a little offended to hear that the 60s is historical fiction now. It is, my friend.
right. And I love historical fiction. I love, like war stories and, Dear John letters
Yeah.
and things like that. So I was inspired to write this just from my love of, historical fiction. I love romance that takes place in a time where, it's not so easy, you know, to be who you
Hmm.
are and love who you want to love. So that's always inspiring to me.
Is that your favorite one
Is that my favorite
of your
like
books?
I would say my favorite has to be River's Moonlight, the Moonlight series, which was I published this in 2018, and it is a paranormal fantasy, and it's about werewolves. So with that, I got my inspiration from Twilight, of course, and this show called Being Human that I used to love. I don't know if you've ever seen it,
I have.
but yeah, I got my
Aidan
inspiration from
Turner for
that
the
too.
win, though.
Oh, definitely. I love the British version and the American version. I watched both. So yeah, and it was basically about a girl in Chicago who gets attacked one night and turns into a werewolf. And I think that was probably my favorite, mostly because it was my most popular book for a while. It really helped me get into, you know, my style of writing. My first two books were kind of me experimenting on what works. But once I got to the Moonlight series, I'm like, okay, I know what prose works for me. I know, how to get from point A to point B to point C better.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and it was the first time I actually wrote, I don't want to say sex because it was Fade to Black. That was the first book where I wrote a sex scene. And that actually got me into December Davenport because I said, I really like writing when characters get intimate. But writing young adult romance, it's hard because you can't get explicit or graphic or anything like that. So I said maybe I should start writing things more along the lines of erotica. So that's when I started writing December Davenport books. And my first one was The Intimate Life of Octavia Wood. That was the very first book I wrote under December Davenport. And it's about a 22-year-old girl who goes to Greece and, starts a fling with a Greek guy. So yeah, that started the party.
Enough said.
Oh, yeah. After that, it was like, okay, I love this. This is, my thing. So, it's nice to be able to switch back and forth between writing for the younger audience and writing for the grown folks.
Well, thank you for being on the show and, playing the sexy game for me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
Please let the listeners know where they can find you and connect with you online and where they can find your work.
I am Chanel Hardy Pub across all platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You just type in Chanel Hardy Pub and I'll come up. Or you can type in Hardy Publications. Excuse me, Hardy Publications, and I'll come up either way. So Chanel Hardy is how you can find me.
Well, thank you again, and thank you to all the listeners and viewers for, continuing to support me here. I appreciate all the feedback I've been receiving. If you like the show, please feel free to subscribe so that you're notified when the next episodes come out. And if you feel so inclined, like and share with your friends. That's the best way to support me. That's it for now. Thank you very much. And remember to treat love as a verb.